This is Lance Von Erich, live in color with Wolfie D.
Hey, this is Jimmy Street, host of the Live and in Color with Wolfie D podcast. Hear the life and times of professional wrestler Wolfie D. From his time in the territories with PG-13 to his time in WWE, ECW, WCW, TNA, and more. Nothing is off limits and nothing will be held back. Thanks again for tuning in. Here he is, Wolfie D.
Welcome once again to Live and in Color with Wolfie D and my man Jimmy across the street. Jimmy, what a week it has been, man.
Seriously, man.
It's snowing at the beach. Trump has been inaugurated and putting all kinds of executive orders into motion. They've got the, I don't want to stray nobody away from us, but I'll just say that there's one side of the political lines that is losing their fucking minds. But what a week, man.
For sure, dude. And let me just ask you this. This is Ask Wolfie right now, okay?
Okay.
James Rock Street from Charlotte, North Carolina asks, what did Barron say to Biden? What did Barron say to Biden? Did you see that?
I didn't know he said anything.
The inauguration, he leans over this gigantic Trump. He's like a young 7-foot Trump, basically.
Yeah, he is. He's got his mannerisms, everything, man.
He leans over and says something to Biden, and Biden's like smiling, like, "Hey there, whippersnapper, man, you sure are tall." And like he leans over, says something, and it looks like he says it to both Biden and Kamala, and then smiles and leaves. And when Biden turns his head, he looks like somebody left a fart there or something.
Really?
Man.
I haven't seen that one.
Look that up. Yeah. I wonder what he said.
Yeah. Oh, man.
There's got to be some lip readers or something out there.
There's got to be somebody that has figured that out by now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't know that happened, man. And I'm sorry I couldn't give you a clever answer because I had no idea what you were talking about.
It's all good.
And I'm on top of it. Yeah, man. But what a wild week, man. I mean, just everything's changing, man. Everything's changing. But, man, 8 inches of snow in fucking New Orleans. Fucking there's snow on the Gulf of America. There's snow at Myrtle Beach, and it's like, what the hell's going on here?
Man, and we got even a little bit here in Hell's Half Acre here in Mooresville, North Carolina. Man,
yeah.
We never get snow here, bro. And I'm kind of happy about it sometimes, but like when you get into the holidays, you like to see a little of the powdery white stuff, and hey. Hold on, wait a second. Not that. Yeah. Anyway, we got a little bit last night, but it wasn't much, man. And then, I see New Orleans, like you said, in Myrtle Beach. I mean,
yeah.
Tommy Rich is posting, "Hey man, wildfires here down in snow, baby."
Wildfires out in LA.
Oh, is he? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. That's right.
He's burning. It took you a minute.
I just got that. I'm sorry. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not hilarious, but it is.
Yeah. He's burning down the house.
Burning down the house. Well, speaking of, man, how you feeling, bro?
Feeling all right, man. I have a feeling you're asking me about my magic mind. Yeah, man. It definitely works like it did the first time, and I have noticed taking the one at night. Have noticed some good rest. I don't want to overhype it, because everything affects everybody differently, and so that's why I just advise people to try it.
Exactly, man. And like I said, I mean, man, it's the main thing that we're trying to help you with is your mental wealth, man. Mental health is so important, but building on that mental health is where it's at. And it's literally investing in habits today that build your resilience for future challenges. It's like basically learning how to wrestle, training to wrestle, and then getting in the ring. Instead of not doing that, you just jump in the ring. How would that have been? Now, you were very talented early on, but think about it from the perspective of not knowing anything, and you get
yeah.
So Magic Mind is that trainer for you to help you get through your day, man.
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, I mean, I'd say most people know this, but I mean, think about meditation. Think about just training in the gym. How they both work with each other. Training in the gym helps your mind. Okay, it absolutely helps your mind, and meditation and things like that that's your mind, and that also helps your body. They work together, man. If your mind ain't right, your body ain't gonna be right. If your body ain't working right, your mind's not gonna work right. So you got to help both of them, man. You got to help both of them. So if you want to get your mind right, you need to use our code and get you some Magic Mind.
We use both shots for 24 hours of mental performance, sleep shots for the better sleep, and focus shots for daytime clarity. We've been using Magic Mind's focus shots in the mornings for 15 days, and it has, as you've heard from Wolfie and myself, it's made a big difference in our clarity. At night, the sleep product has helped me wind down. Literally, after 3 days of using it, I noticed a better sleep after that. Now, further on, I'm sleeping like a baby, man.
Let me ask you this. I've heard that saying a million times. Who actually wants to sleep like a baby? Does that mean you're waking up every 2 hours crying and needing some milk? Is that what sleeping like a baby is?
Yeah, but not with this Magic Mind sleep shot.
You're waking up crying every 2 hours, want some more Magic Mind.
Yeah, that's it. Help me with my sleep.
No, for real though.
Yeah. So for the first time, we got the 24-hour pack, focus and sleep shots, bundled up at a 45% discount, exclusive at our link, Wolfie, magicmind.com/liveincojan, LIVEINCO Jan. Let us know about your mental wealth investments and what do you want to achieve in this year? Because right now we've got the January Mental Wealth Challenge. There's no better time to start than now. Make 2025 the year that you build your mental resilience. Improve both your sleep and awake clarity with Magic Mind and Live and in Color with Wolfie D.
Cool, man. Yeah, y'all get it. Coming up, we are going to have somebody that, hey, he probably has some mental wealth, but I know for sure he's got some actual wealth. I read up on him, and dude appears to be loaded.
I believe so, yeah.
Lance Von Erich is going to be on the show with us, probably the only Von Erich we'll ever have. So
we might get Paul Roma as a horseman. We might get, guys, we get a Lance Von Erich, and I'm happy about it, man. Because you know what?
I am too.
Yeah, he's got such a cool story to tell. And I mean, dude, can you imagine being dropped into that and not? Yeah,
that's a pressure situation, no doubt. It sounds like it anyway. We'll ask him, but I think it would be. Yeah, man, cool story. From what I've just looked on, doing a little research on him, I got some questions about some things, and I know you do.
Yeah.
But it sounds like a cool story, and I can't wait to hear it straight from the horse's mouth.
We'll be right back with Lance Von Erich after these messages.
This episode is brought to you by State Farm. From your morning podcast to your afternoon playlist, State Farm knows you personalize your entire day, and that's why State Farm helps you personalize your insurance with the State Farm Personal Price Plan. It offers coverage options that help protect what you care about most at an affordable price just for you. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Prices vary by state. Options selected by customer. Availability and eligibility may vary.
This episode is brought to you by Allstate. Some people just know they could save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Like to check the date of the big game first before you accidentally buy tickets on your 20th wedding anniversary and have to spend the next 20 years of your marriage making up for it. Yeah, checking first is smart. So check Allstate first for a quote that could save you hundreds. You're in good hands with Allstate. Savings vary. Terms apply. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Northbrook, Illinois.
Hey folks, to get your official Live It in Color with Wolfie D merchandise, go to prowrestlingtees.com/live Wolfie D. Check it out.
If you're listening to Live and in Color with Wolfie D on Apple Podcast and like what you're hearing, go ahead and leave a 5-star rating. And while you're at it, write a review. Tell us what you liked. Tell us what you'd like to hear in the future. It's very important to us and always appreciated. Thanks again.
All right, guys, we're back. And as always you stay tuned in. You survived the commercial break, and we really appreciate you tuning in this week because very special guest, man. Very special guest. We have got somebody that's now been portrayed on the silver screen. Not only that, but he's portrayed a Von Erich. That was the deal, man. It was a kayfabe Von Erich, but now we're having him on here as his real self. But I'm going to introduce him as Lance Von Erich. What's going on, my man?
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
Yeah, we appreciate you coming on, man.
Seriously.
I know you're a busy man, a traveling man. You say you're in Las Vegas today.
Yeah, I'm in Las Vegas for a couple of months, and I'm actually heading February to Portland for a couple of days to do an appearance.
Yeah.
Yes,
And
that is for Captain Nick, right? The Portland convention.
yeah, the thing is, I hadn't been back there since. Well, I hadn't lived in the States since '87, something like that. Spent some time here, 6 months here and 6 months there. But
Right on.
I always liked Portland, so I want to go back and spend a couple of days there.
That's pretty cool, man. I know you're probably looking forward to seeing some of the guys as well, right?
Yeah, I had the best time when I was wrestling in the States. I had the best time in Portland. I didn't have a really good time in Texas, but and then of course all the years in South Africa I enjoyed wrestling.
Yeah.
I noticed you too. You won a title, and anytime I've had anybody on here, I know my listeners get tired of hearing this, but every time somebody from Portland comes on here, I gotta ask about Billy Jack Haynes, man, because I worked with him just a little bit and spent some time around him in the Memphis territory in the mid '90s, and I knew then, just when I met him, just by the way he looks and then that laugh, I thought, man, this some bitch ain't all there, man. This some bitch crazy. And that's my first opinion. So I'd like to know, what was your relationship like?
Well, he's actually kind of the reason I ended up in Portland, and I lived with him for 6 months, and I don't have anything bad to say about him at all. He was a good guy, and he treated me well.
That's awesome.
I think he was a good guy. I just felt like, man, he's kind of out there, man.
Eccentric.
Well, when I knew him, he was kind of, he wasn't drinking, he wasn't smoking, he was all business, and before, I think he had done a stint in prison, and he had done drugs and all that. But when I had met him, he was, pretty as normal as you could be as a worker in our business.
Right. For sure. Who else up in Portland did you hang with a bunch?
Yeah, Steve Simpson and I lived together as well after I moved out of Billy's house. Steve Simpson and I shared an apartment, and we hung around all the baby faces, Jerry Gray and Billy Two Eagles and Steve Pardee and Don Running Bear, and those are the guys I hung around the most, I guess.
Yeah. Did you? A good friend of mine, he's passed now, but Steve Dahl was a Portland guy for a while. Did you hang around Steve?
Yeah. I actually more in Dallas than I did in Portland, but a little bit, but more in Dallas.
Yeah. Steve was a good guy.
He worked in Dallas for a while. Yeah, he was a good guy. How'd he pass?
It was like he had a surgery, and I think it turned into some kind of infection or something like that. It happened, let's see. Jimmy, what year was that? That was before 2010, I believe, but somewhere in the 2000s. I can't remember.
2009.
2009, yeah. I said before 2010. So, yeah, I believe it was an infection of some sort from a surgery before that. Some kind of stomach surgery or something. I think it...
Well,
Go ahead.
Everyone that I've wrestled with, I mean, at least in the Dallas area, they're all dead. There's very few that are alive.
Yeah. I mean, I still have a few people that I talk to, but a lot of people they're gone, man. And it's crazy when you think about it. I'll be watching an old tape or something that somebody posts online, and I'll be like, damn, I'm the only son bitch in the ring that's still alive. How the hell is that?
Yeah. That's crazy.
So tell me about, let's go back to before wrestling, man. Like, what kind of athletic background do you have? I always like to know that.
I actually was a bodybuilder and a power lifter. I didn't do much of anything else other than that.
Really?
Yeah.
That's amazing to me because, like, when I've trained people or tried to work with somebody that didn't have at least some, usually like the football players and the power lifters and them, it's like they got two left feet. So it's like I'm surprised that you were able to catch on almost, because most of the bodybuilder types have a hard time.
It might, it took me longer than maybe other people, but when I actually came into my own was actually in South Africa. I was too green. Obviously, I was really green in Portland, and then when I went to the Von Erichs, I was too green to be in the position that I was as a Von Erich, but they were very desperate. And so, when I was in Portland, Don Owen said, you need to stay here a couple of more years and then go to, the WWF. Because you're going to have a hard time in Texas. And having said that, I probably should have stayed with my career. I probably should have stayed in Portland longer, but it all worked out because, I had a wonderful, life in South Africa, and I wouldn't have, things wouldn't have turned out the way they had done if I hadn't gone the wrestling route.
Yeah. Right. So it says here on Wikipedia that these three guys trained you. So you're going to have to help me out here. Dennis Sheldon, Sandy Barr, and Buck Zumhoff. Yeah,
well, Sandy Barr, definitely. I mean, he helped me a lot. Him and myself and Steve Simpson used to go down to, the Portland Sports Arena and train with Sandy Barr a lot. Dennis Sheldon didn't really train me in the wrestling because he didn't have, it was, he was more of a promoter, not a trainer, getting me, deals like, for, Ford and, just, appearances.
Yeah.
And Buck Zumhoff, he came down, and so did George Weingroff. I don't know.
Yes.
George!
We love George. George.
I talk to George every now and then, man. He was a huge help in my career. I started training at 15 and started working at 16. And so at 16, 17, I was wrestling George, quite a bit locally. And George helped me out so much, man. So much. Great guy.
The thing is that I found it kind of funny because, Fritz Von Erich wanted the Freebirds and the Von Erichs to come down and train me. And, obviously that's the last thing they wanted to do or did do. They might show up for 10 minutes, but it was very difficult to get any, training or, anybody to help you. And, world class for a couple of reasons. One, coming in as a Von Erich, everybody was kind of like, you're not really you haven't paid your dues. One,
right.
Everybody treated me well, but everybody, I never had anybody not treat me well in the business.
And do you think that's because like, I guess Fritz had your back, or do you think, they didn't want retribution from him?
No, I don't think that. Well, maybe a little bit. I don't think that was a whole lot had to do with it. I think that they saw that I actually wanted to learn, and then my head wasn't big. I mean, it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to be a Von Erich. Remember, I didn't want to. In my personal life, it's not like I grew up like most people, including you, if you were 15 years old, trying to get in the business. Right. It wasn't that way for me. I didn't pursue that. It just happened.
It just happened, right? So you didn't really, I guess what you're saying more is you weren't really a fan before you got in.
Well, I knew who the Von Erichs were, but I didn't, other than that, I never watched wrestling.
Right. So. Interesting. That's another thing that makes me go, I'm surprised that you caught on, because not only not having some sort of athletic background, but you didn't watch it. And for me, I always think, and I mean, you're the exception to the rule, as I always tell people, I'm like, man, if you didn't watch it, it's really hard to catch on, because there's just certain ways you do and don't do things in the ring, But hell, I guess.
Well, the hardest part is actually the interviews for me, because, I couldn't do interviews at all well, neither could the Von Erichs, but
touche.
But I couldn't do interviews because most of it, and if you're at 15, you're probably doing interviews
Oh, no.
You know, we're practicing interviews in the mirror, and you know, I mean, these guys are good in it, you know, doing interviews because they've been practicing all their life.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah, I had no clue. So at 18 is when I got my first break in Memphis, and I did my first interview on live TV with my back to the camera. So, yeah, I didn't have any coaching on that either. I got my ass reamed by Jerry Jarrett as soon as I got back. But so, yeah, you were like into real estate already before the wrestling business. Is that correct?
Yeah, you know, I remember driving up because what happened was I met David Manning on a golf course. I was visiting a friend of mine, and we're on the golf course, and I just won a bodybuilding contest. And I was all cut up, and I was about in pounds, about 250 pounds, 60 pounds. And David Manning followed me around the golf course. I was wearing shorts. It was a public golf course. I was wearing shorts. And he kept looking at my legs, and my friend was telling me, he goes like, I think this guy's trying to pick you up. And I went up to him and I said, you know, what, do you want something? And he goes, you know, and he's still looking at my legs. He goes, you know, those are huge legs. I've never seen anybody with legs that big. And I'm like, okay. And he goes, have you ever thought about wrestling? And I'm like, what do you mean? And he goes, you know, professional wrestling. Have you ever heard of the Von Erichs? Blah, blah, blah. And I had, and, you know, I said, yeah, vaguely. And he goes, well, you know, and he said, would you be interested in wrestling? And I said, not really. And he goes, well, I'm going to give you my card. And at least do me a favor. Come and see me at the Sportatorium. And so, you know, my friend said, gee, just go and see what he has to say. You know, because we had no idea how much wrestlers made or didn't make.
Right.
And so I go to the Sportatorium, and, you know, I remember watching television for a couple of weeks, and they go, the world famous Sportatorium.
Yeah.
And I drove up into the parking lot of the world famous Sportatorium, and I go,
thinking you're going to see Madison Square Garden.
Yeah. And it was like a dumb. And
we've heard that.
I remember like a year later, I had a friend or two, I guess a year later from that time, or a year and a half later, I had a friend of mine from Israel, and we were really huge in Israel. And my Israeli friend came to visit, and he couldn't wait because our television went on Channel 39 to Lebanon, and from Lebanon, they got it in Israel. So we were big in Lebanon, but because of the war and all that, you know, I mean, it wasn't like in Israel.
Yeah.
And, so my friend, I spent a lot of time in Israel, but I liked it a lot. As a matter of fact, years later, after I was done wrestling, I spent like 10 months there.
Wow.
But I remember him coming with me, and we go into the Sportatorium, and he's like, you know, he says, can I swear on this podcast?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And he goes, he said, he was telling me, he goes, what the fuck? This is a world-class Sportatorium. You could see live wires that were exposed on the wood. And
oh, my God.
It looked like a fire trap. I'm surprised that it never burned down, truly. And you know, he told me, he goes, you know, I saw rats running around, you know, underneath the...
Oh, shit.
Yeah, so it wasn't anything to be, you know, like the world-class, what you would think it would be. Like you said, it wasn't Madison Square Garden's by
That's it. Yeah, your way in the business is definitely unique, man. And it, you know, I think it's actually mentally works out better for somebody to get in like you did, as opposed to the way I do, because it was everything to me, and to where somebody that gets in the wrestling business that doesn't need it has a way better mental state. Trust me.
Well, I think that's life. You know, it's like anything. You know, if you're selling a product and you're, you know, and you have commission breath because you have to have that sale, people.
Yeah.
You know, and it's true. You have to make that sale. You don't survive. It wasn't my case. You know, I remember driving up, and it was during payday. And I was wearing at that time about a $1,500 suit, and I was driving a new XJ6, and a couple of the guys found out that, I might be wrestling, they said, "What the fuck do you want to be a wrestler for?" And I didn't. I was thinking then to myself, well, they don't know that the idea is for me to be a Von Erich, so and I wasn't going to say anything.
Yeah,
but having because I was picturing something else. I thought they made a lot more money than they actually did.
Oh, yeah. Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah. They should have named you like Deep Pockets Von Erich or some shit.
The original $1 million man, baby.
Yeah.
Well, I remember I came in from Portland to do the, Texas Stadium, and they paid me. I was on television for like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Partially to hold Gino Hernandez down to get his hair cut, and then I had a little interview that was, a couple of seconds long, and I made $3,500 or $3,000, I forget. And I said, well, that's great money. And little did I know once I ended up there, I actually got there in the time that the Von Erichs were on Aspire, not the Von Erichs, but just Dallas was kind of lost its, I think that was the second last big show I had seen.
Uh-huh.
They weren't drawing the houses like Texas State. When we did Texas Stadium, it was huge.
Right.
But thereafter, it just kind of went down and down and down and down and down.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's see here. So then, after Dallas, and you leave, you retire. I mean, is that kind of the next part of the story? Is it just you leave?
No, what happened was I got hurt by. I got thrown into the mat. Somebody didn't take care of me, and it's the only time I ever really got hurt. And I separated my shoulder, so I took a few weeks off. And when I left, I was wrestling twice a day because I would work like the first match in one town and have to do the main event in the another because they were short Von Erichs.
Yeah.
One was because, of them dying, and two is because not being able to make their town because they were incapacitated in whatever, use your imagination here, in whatever way.
Yeah. And
just couldn't make the towns. And so, and I wasn't making, the money wasn't commensurate with the job. And so I hit Fritz up for more money, and he says no. So I started doing independent shots, and I already knew, I was leaving the country, and, I did independent shots. And having said that, I worked for Ken Mantell in Wild West Wrestling, and I did a few shots for him. I shouldn't have done that. I should have just rode off into the set because I wasn't coming back to the States to live ever again.
Yeah. Okay.
And so, and I already knew that. And the Von Erichs kind of smashed me on television, said that I wasn't a real Von Erich. I mean, it was a real, they exposed the business. And at that time, kayfabe was everything. Right, and if they had not said anything, they were afraid I was going to go to, the WWF. And I think that's why they had done that. I mean, had that move,
I also heard that, did Fritz, did he trademark the name Von Erich or something where you couldn't use it, or just had he done it before that or after? Is that a thing?
Yeah, I think they always had the trademark. I've never really used it to I went to South, I'm a South African citizen. I went to South Africa, and I wrestled there for many years, and I was much more over in South Africa. And funny enough, I had more opportunity and made more money in South Africa than I did in the States working for the Von Erichs.
Yeah.
He didn't want to pay any more, and I said, okay, bye. And funny enough, years later, I was actually in Orlando, and I ran into Eric Bischoff, and I had really long hair, and I was about 315 pounds at that time. So I looked kind of like the Dingo Warrior.
Yeah. But I've seen those pictures.
and Eric Bischoff, they were doing a show, and he said, hey, he stopped me and said, have you ever thought about wrestling? And I said, yeah, I wrestle in, I didn't tell him who I was, so I said, I wrestle in South Africa. And he goes, would you mind doing we're doing a show in Universal Studios. Would you do a dark match for us and try out? And I said, I don't think so. And he said, well, again, somebody else gave me a card and said, give me a shot if you're interested. And I never, wrote him back, because at that time I was making really big money and I was wrestling whenever I wanted to. If I hadn't been to a certain country that I wanted to go to, or if it was a country that I liked a lot, like Israel, I would go wrestle. But other than that, I kind of picked and choose, because I didn't need the money. It was just for just to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I had health clubs at that time. And so, I was able to take off when I wanted to take off and do my own thing.
That's awesome.
So what made you fall in love with South Africa?
Well, I mean, it's like I guess it's kind of like what the United States was in the 50s. It's just,
okay. I see what you're saying.
Country, I mean, it was. It's not so much anymore, and the reason is because of the fact that after the apartheid, I lived through the apartheid, and after the apartheid, each politician that came along after Mandela was more corrupt than the one before. So, they kind of stole all the resources, and things just don't work like they did before. Not that I think the apartheid was right.
Right.
The country did run well.
South Africa I'm amazed by that. I mean, honestly, I get on a deep dive rabbit hole every once in a while, and I'm like, holy cow, there's some real depth to their story for sure. So can I jump in real quick, Wolf, do you mind?
Jump in there. I needed a hot tag anyway.
Okay, cool. Hot tag. So George, I've heard George tell this story, but Wolfie, when he was in a tag team, PG-13 in Memphis, they had a little person with them. They called him Midget D, Danny. Okay. And there was also another performer, Roger Calvert, Little Farmer John. They wrestled a lot together, but I know for a fact that George had taken those guys over to South Africa, and they told a great story about a very wealthy gentleman who had super glued a gold Krugerrand to the floor, and he would rib people trying to see if they would pick it up off the ground. Everybody would walk by and try to get it. And apparently Midget D, Danny, Wolfie's buddy, had a real funny time with it. But do you know at all maybe who that would be? A very wealthy sponsor of wrestling, maybe?
No, because there was only, sponsor or
I'm not sure if it was a promoter or a sponsor or what, but they were at this very wealthy man. I was almost thinking it was you, the more stories you were telling, but
that wasn't me.
Okay.
It's funny because the sponsors were like big stores,
Okay.
I don't really know of anybody that wasn't like corporations actually that sponsored the wrestling.
Okay.
Except for there was one guy that maybe and I can't even remember his name. He was dyslexic and had clothing stores, and he couldn't read or write, but he was a multi-millionaire, and he had a great sense of humor. So that might be.
I think that sounds right for some reason, but I don't know. Yeah. But anyway, I just wanted to run that by you. But yeah, so, we've talked to George a million times. Tell us what maybe a story about George or working with George or any kind of training or anything like that.
George Weingroff?
Yes, sir. Yeah. George Weingroff.
No, I don't really, other than me, but the ribs that I would have would be more so in Portland, because in Dallas, I didn't hang around any of those people, but Steve Simpson and Steve Dahl every once in a while.
Yeah.
Do you know who Jerry Gray is?
Yeah, not personally.
I don't know if he's still alive or not. Actually, a hell of a worker too.
Yeah.
And he trained me a lot with, and I used to have really good matches with him when I very first started. Babyface matches, but. Don Owen had a brother named Elton, and he ran the territory in Eugene, and Eugene had a boxing ring. It was like You've wrestled on boxing rings, you know, they're bigger and they are hard as rocks.
Yep.
But we were in the change room, and Elton always had a cigar, and he would smoke the cigar and then set it down and then forget where he put it. And everybody, I mean, Elton was a crotchety old man. You know, Don Owen was also, a crotchety guy, but he was also, a lot of fire, and he had a good personality. Elton just kind of walked around like Mr. Magoo. And so Jerry saw the cigarette, the cigar, burning with that, and he knew that Elton was going to be looking for it. So Jerry decided to stick it up his ass. He stuck out like halfway up his ass, and then put it back on the. And I was with with Billy Jack, and Billy Jack was a big ribber. He loved doing ribs too, so he was thoroughly entertained, as we all were. And Elton came and got his cigar and started smoking it. And after about 3 puffs on that cigar, he goes, "Does this smell like shit in here?" Everybody died laughing.
Damn, that's a stiff rib there.
Yeah.
Oh man!
Hey, real quick, I just thought about this. I was thinking about South African wrestlers, and the only other one that I actually know would be. Do you know Adam Rose, Ray Lapine?
No.
Okay, he's a bit younger than me, but I didn't know if he's from Johannesburg, but I don't know how long he lived there before he left, and he would not be. He's like 45 now, but anyway, he worked for WWE a little bit.
Let's take a quick time out and get a word from one of my dope-ass sponsors, and we'll be right back with more Live and in Color with Wolfie D.
This episode is brought to you by Peloton. If you're looking for flexible workouts, Peloton's got you covered. Summer runs or playoff season meditations. Whatever your vibe, Peloton has thousands of classes built to push you and has something there to adapt with you whether you need a challenge or rest. Peloton has everything you need whenever you need it. Find your push. Find your power. Peloton. Visit onepeloton.com.
The Portland Wrestling Expo will take place on Saturday, February 22nd at the Holiday Inn Portland Airport. The PWE will be a celebration of the unique past and present of the Pacific Northwest area. It's presented by Captain's Corner. Announced guests include The Grappler, Mean Mike Miller, Top Gun, Ricky Santana, Moondog Moretti, John Nord, and C.W. Bergstrom. There will even be a Portland Wrestling History Q&A. In addition, there'll be international guests such as Hall of Famers Eric Bischoff, Rikishi, crowd favorites like The Boogeyman, and Lance Von Erich. Make sure to head on over to pwexpo.com to get your tickets. VIP tickets are already half sold. The Portland Wrestling Expo on Saturday, February 22nd. Be there.
The other thing I wanted to talk about too was obviously the Iron Claw movie that MJF played your character. Have you seen the movie?
I turned it off halfway through. I didn't think it was. No, it didn't piss me off. I thought it was okay.
Yeah.
But I was expecting a lot more because everybody said it was good. I remember that I had some friends that were in Mexico, and it aired in Mexico, and I was I forget where I was. Maybe I was in South Africa. And my friend said, you'll never believe this. We're at the movie theater, and at Cinemax, it's one of the movie theaters in Mexico, and he says, I'm going to see this movie, talking about the Von Erichs.
Mm-hmm.
He knows that my first name is Kevin.
Mm-hmm.
And because he didn't know who the Von Erichs were, he thought the whole film was about me. And but anyway, he said, a character in there, like, because Kevin was in there a lot, obviously, with Pam and all that. And after the movie was done, he goes, I didn't know you been married for 40 years or whatever it was. He goes, did your girlfriend know that? That wasn't the reason I'm telling you this, though, is that because when he went to the movie theater, he said it's the first time he's ever seen on the, like when they put the picture of the movie, like like on a billboard, and it has they change all the names of the movies in Mexico, they'll call it something completely different because the Iron Claw wouldn't make sense to them.
Right.
Yeah.
So they always change the movies. Very seldom you ever hear a movie in the same name, as it would be in the States. But it had a thing on the bottom that said, if you don't like the movie, they'll refund the money. And he said he'd never seen a movie, and that means they either thought it was going to be really good or nobody was going to come to it, and that was a way to get them to go. I don't know.
Yeah.
But the guy that played me, MJ, I actually met him in New York. I've never done any of these podcasts or anything until I wrote a book.
Yeah,
I saw that.
That's the first time that I'd ever done any podcasts, and we've sold thousands of them.
That's awesome.
And when I was out in New York, and MJ was there, and I didn't know who he was. I had no idea. I'd seen a picture of who was going to play me, and he asked to see me, like in the back. And he said, hey, I just wanted to meet you because, I was going to play you in the movie, and I read your book, and I studied your tapes and all that. And they cut most of our scene out. And I said, well, just out of curiosity, how much? And he says, well, I'm kind of pissed off because I had a 5-minute dialogue, with, I don't remember who, and they cut it all on the editing floor. And I guess that Mike, the youngest brother, they cut everything out about him. There wasn't anything about him.
They basically combined Chris and Mike is what they did. They combined the two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And having said that, when I was in Mexico, I was telling some friends of mine, about the movie coming out and all that. This is when they were still working on the movie. I've got friends in the film industry, and they were asking me out in California, and they were asking me, how much of this movie is going to have you in it? Mm-hmm. And I said, I don't know. And I started thinking, I don't know if it would be, I didn't know if Kevin had any say so in the movie or not. And I started thinking that maybe it's better that I'm not in the movie because he might, they might make me look like there's no telling what they would, would say about me, or he would say about me.
Yeah.
We kind of, it's kind of funny. About 2 years ago, he reached out, we talked to each other, and he said, listen, I just wanted to tell you that I didn't understand, how difficult it was for you. He just thought I quit. He was so far removed from anything that, he didn't know the real story why I quit. Whether it was I'm sure he knew money, but he didn't know why. Mm-hmm. And he said, now I kind of understand. And I said, well, I kind of understand your side of it too, because their thought was that they were giving me this unbelievable opportunity, but opportunity, the money has to be commensurate with the job. If you're not making money, no matter how, I'd rather be non-famous and, have lots of money than be famous and have none. What's famous? Not right.
Right. Yeah, be comfortable and have a good life and not have to be famous. I think that's the American dream, or the South African dream, or the whatever dream, It's
I think anywhere, it's better to have both.
Sure.
Yeah. I was just sitting here thinking about what you said about, them changing the names because it don't make sense to them. Iron Claw, the way they would change it wouldn't make sense to them. And it just brings up my memories of early '94 going to Mexico and working down there for UCW, which was on its way down the toilet at that point. But the ring announcers and the people that did the posters could not figure out, because our tag team name was PG-13. he's JC Ice, I'm Wolfie D. So when they go to the ring, of course, we didn't really know it until we seen the posters. But so our name down there was Los Hielos Lobos, the Ice Wolves, 1 and 2.
Yeah.
I was like, fuck.
What? Did you ever meet a guy named the Giant Warrior?
The Giant Warrior.
He wrestled there. Yeah, he's like 7 foot, like 7 in feet, 7'2".
Wow. Was he Mexican?
No, he's an American guy that worked in South Africa, and I've worked with him in India and many different places.
What's he besides his height? What's he look like? Because there's a dude that I've seen. He always claims he's been in the business forever. I don't know, man. He's one of them dudes that I'm just not sure if he's telling me all the truth. You know what I mean? I think he's always doing indies around Florida and shit. I don't know. He calls himself American Giant. There's a guy called American Giant. I don't really know him, but I don't know if it's
his name. Giant Warrior was what he wrestled in Mexico, Japan, and South Africa, and then Tiger Steel in Europe, and then Colossus and
probably not the same guy.
Germany. Yeah.
Yeah, this guy was named Jeffrey Bearden, and he was, I don't think that's him. He wrestled as the Giant Warrior. A bunch of Dick Murdoch and Dory Funk Jr. trained him. I don't think that's
that's not the same guy.
Yeah. Anyway, so Lance, one thing I got to talk to you about is obviously when you were, traveling, like 93, you wrestled in India, and I know you spent a lot of time in South Africa and 96 in Malaysia, but during that time, you looked absolutely freaking amazing, bro. Like you have like the perfect height and your body was just so symmetrical and jacked. Did you feel like that at that point had you been put back into that position of the Lance Von Erich in world class, do you think it would have been different had you been at that stage rather than like at the earlier stages that you were? Or do you feel like that was just the natural progression of things for you?
I think that, two things. The reason I quit was because I went from I just won a bodybuilding contest, and I looked probably as good as that.
Right.
When I won the bodybuilding contest, when they first met me and, sent me to Portland. In Portland, I was in fairly good shape. Obviously, I was trying to learn how to wrestle, so that also kind of kills your working out because you're busy trying to learn and you're on the road and all that, but I still was maintaining some shape.
Yeah.
As soon as I got to Dallas, it actually all of it went down the tubes because I was working, I was traveling, I don't know, however many kilometers for you miles and how many,
sure.
and working twice a day, I might be in Dallas and on a Saturday afternoon and I wouldn't even take my wrestling clothes off and then hop on a plane and be in Amarillo or, in Louisiana and, just make it to the town. And I got to tell you, in those days, a lot of people won't understand this, but, you had to have a piece of paper that, had a map that you unfolded and it was never, it was broken into 5 parts and, you had to find where these venues were. And, a lot of times they weren't in places that were easy to find.
No, that was a skill, man. That was a fucking skill. Let me tell you.
Yeah. And, so you think how much pressure that is to be the first, for instance, if I was in Waco and I had to do that show and then I had to be in Denton be the last show and try to find your way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in those days, for you guys, you're younger, but in those days, everybody, drank on the way to the matches. Everybody. There was very few people that I had met that didn't drink on the way to the matches or the way back because you were on the road all the time. In those days, they didn't, it wasn't a big deal. I can't tell you how many times that all of us got pulled over and the cops would say, "Is there anybody sober in here? Then drive." Yeah. Now they take you there. I would never drink and drive, not even a beer in the States. I'm shit scared of drinking in the States and driving.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times I've been pulled over back in the early 90s where everybody'd be partying and shit and they'd let us go. Now you'd be thrown under the jail because they wanted to be your friend back then. That's the way I think about it.
Now they get sued if something happens, you know,
Exactly.
too, so they're worried about that.
There's no dash cams.
To get back to what you said, I think things, if I had been the size that I was, you know, like when I got chosen to go to the Universe for South Africa, I was 315 pounds, you know, and I was, you know, dieting back down to, I think I competed at 285 or 90. I mean, growth hormone in those days too, you know, I was doing, but I think that I could have had more bargaining power, maybe, and I would have maybe looked to go into someplace like the WWF.
Yeah.
If it had been in the early 90s, that's when I mean, not because it's me, but I mean, that's when I actually looked I kind of matured in looks and everything, you know, and I had the hair going and all that. You know, when that was fashionable. I don't know if long hair anymore is, you know, it's not the same as it was back in those days.
Well, they hide spots with hair back then, but now they just scream the spots in the ring and it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I never had a problem with my hair falling out, so I was lucky. But easier to talk too when you got the long hair, you know. But I think that in the experience that I had in the ring too, that I could have, you know, really gone somewhere in the States, and I actually learned how to talk too. You know, I mean, I wasn't the best at, you know, doing interviews, but I did better than any of them in South Africa. You know, especially with the Afrikaans accent. And right at the robots, go straight to, you know, it's painful.
Yeah. So, okay. Well, I always ask anyone who's ever had any ties to world class what their instances were with, and this, you know, I know he's very, what's the word I'm looking for? Some people love him. Some people hate him, but he's my favorite manager of all time. I actually did a little stint in the business in Nashville and imitated him as much as I could, but the one and only Gary Hart. Did you have anything much with him at all?
No, he didn't like me, and
gotcha.
You know, he never treated me bad, and he always was cordial to me and all that.
Yeah.
But the people that spoke out when I left, the rest of them understood. You know, I when I went to this signing a few weeks ago, you know, the Ric Flair was there, and let's see who else. That the MJ was there. But a lot of new people. You know, Greg Valentine was there, and Ric Flair didn't even know who I was. You know, I mean, he's at the point where I don't know if he knows a lot of what's going on.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
I know what you mean. Yeah,
he looked really old, and you know, he looked. Maybe he had also been drinking, you know, when I talked to him, and I don't know if he understood what I was saying.
Yeah.
But in Greg Valentine, I said, "Hey, I haven't seen you for 30 years. I know there's no way they don't know who the Von Erichs are, so they would know who Lance Von Erich is, because it was the first time that they, you know, the kayfabe had been besides Eddie Mansfield.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
I mean, he did." Exposed. I didn't. It wasn't me, you know. But I mean, that's the only two times that really the business had been exposed up until that time.
Yeah.
And but so I don't know. But a lot of the newer guys, you know, said, "We don't know you, but we think you got a rotten deal," you know. And I don't know what. And I didn't talk to them about it because I don't really care.
Right.
But it was kind of nice that they said that. But I don't know what they meant by rotten deal, because I don't think they knew, you know, how my life turned out after that.
They don't know the details.
Seriously. Read your book. Lance by chance.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
And now a word from our sponsor.
Are you done with the cold? Well, on Saturday, March 29th, we've got something to warm you up. It's Glory Days GrappleCon 2 at the Residence in Tampa, Suncoast in Lutz, Florida. This all-day event will be a WCW reunion and feature the stars you remember, such as Double A Arn Anderson, the Russian Nightmare Nikita Koloff, Ming, Dirty Dutch Mantel, Colonel Robert Parker, Bunkhouse Buck, and much, much more. There will be over a dozen stars in attendance. Make sure to head on over to Tickstree.com to get your tickets for Glory Days GrappleCon 2.
Before we go, I wanted to ask you this, because you worked with Ric Flair, though, right? You worked in the ring with him?
I did.
How did that go?
I was too green to be with him. You know, the funny thing is, he said, listen, kid, just do what I say and we'll be fine. And I got to tell you that, everybody said, because that's the only time I was really nervous. And, he said, listen, you're going to be fine. And everybody said, yeah, he can make a broomstick look good, so don't worry. Right. Just listen to him. And he did. And it all worked out. And, but that's the only time I truly, besides doing interviews, because I always was nervous doing the interviews. But aside from that, working with somebody, I was never really, nervous. But that time I was like kind of sick at my stomach.
Jimmy, why don't you tell the listeners where they can meet Lance Von Erich?
Yeah, or Ricky Vaughn. If you want to get a Ricky Vaughn autograph, go for that too. Yeah. So the Portland Wrestling Expo, Captain's Corner with Captain's Corner Nick, and that's Saturday, February 22nd at the Holiday Inn, Portland Airport, 8439 Northeast Columbia Court, Portland, Oregon. You're going to get to meet all the great stars: Lynn Denton, the Grappler, Mean Mike Miller, Ricky Santana, who else? Sin Bodie, Rikishi, Nord, the Barbarian, all these great people, and our good friend here, Lance Von Erich, Ricky Vaughn, man. How long has it been since you've been to Portland?
85, I guess.
Awesome. First time back. Okay. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome, man. We appreciate you, man, hopping in the car and taking a trip with us down memory lane. And, man, thank you is all I can tell you. I really appreciate talking to you.
No, it was great.
Very unique individual. I didn't know everything about you, man. I tell this all the time, man. I love doing this show just to, I love having guys that I know on here, obviously, but I really like having guys that I don't know and I can get to kind of know, it's pretty cool, man. You're an interesting fellow.
Well, read the book because it's actually more interesting.
Okay.
Actually,
I plan on it. Yeah.
The two first chapters or 3 chapters about wrestling.
Okay.
And the chapters after that, I was bombed on a train in India with, this guy I told you about, Jeff, the Giant Warrior and the Barbarian, and
wow,
and Dusty Wolf, if you know who he is.
Yeah.
And they blew up a cart in front of us, and 22 people were either killed or maimed.
Shit.
Wow.
When I was on an airplane working for World Class, I was on the plane with all the other guys. We wrestled in St. Martin. Funny enough, I moved to St. Martin for 2 years later in life.
Yeah.
While I was living in Mexico, I was running a company in St. Martin, and they all knew the Von Erichs and all the people, but Chris Adams had headbutted, I don't know if you remember, a pilot when we were in midair.
Yes.
And so it's the story. It was because of me, man. And so I go over, not exactly me, but, I was talking to a stewardess and he got upset, and the stewardess called because he started getting a bit aggressive, and he called the co-pilot, and the co-pilot came, he headbutted him, and we made an emergency landing in Florida, and they charged him. They were going to charge him for air piracy. So it's the story about that. I rode a bicycle from South Africa to the Congo, which took 3 months with 2 British guys. So it's a story about, that and a lot of other adventures that happened on the way.
Yeah.
Because of the wrestling.
Well, let me tell you something. You are a great salesman, man, because we could have talked about that shit on here, but you're making everybody go get the book, by God.
I love that. I think that's awesome. That's awesome.
So there's this pitch, y'all. Go buy his book if you want to hear those stories.
Yeah.
If you want to hear those stories, buy Lance by Chance. I'm going to buy it here in a minute.
And a lot of the very first day in the Portland territory, Billy Jack introduced me to some people at the hotel, and there was a big sex. Well, you have to read the book. I'm going to leave you. That's the trailer. There was a big sex thing going on, and so
oh man,
it was kind of interesting. Me walking into this, being the straight guy I was, seeing all this going on was kind of interesting.
Okay, and seriously, I'm gonna tell you something, man. In my lifetime, not that I can't. I can read, and I can read very well. And I think I have a good vocabulary and shit like that. I'm a smart dude, but I hate fucking reading. I hate it. But I've read, in my lifetime, I read Ace Frehley's book and maybe some other shit that I had to read in school, but really, I don't read. So I'm telling you, I'm going to read this just so I can read those stories, man.
Well, I gave like 200 books out to people that asked me for the book, and I got to tell you, I don't think anybody made it over the first chapter. They just aren't readers. They just wanted the book.
Yeah.
Well,
just wanted the book.
I want to know those stories, man. So unless you plan on calling me and telling them to me, I'm going to get the book.
Well, it's kind of funny because my parents were fairly affluent, and I remember when I told my mom I was going to be a wrestler, and she goes, "Oh my God," and she has an accent, and she goes, "Oh my God, what am I going to tell my friends? My son, the wrestler." My cousin lives in Australia, and my mom's in South Africa, and my cousin visits my mom, and my mom calls me and says, "You didn't tell me that you wrote a book." And I said, "No, I didn't." How did you find out? And she said, "Your cousin, had the book, and she had just finished it, so I asked her for it." And my mom read it, and she goes, "Oh my God, why would you ever tell any of that?" She was just appalled that I'd actually told any of that, because obviously and I'm not real close with my mom. I mean, we've lived on different continents forever.
Yeah.
And she was just shocked that I had done any of this stuff.
Well, okay, so this is a good question here, real quick, and I will leave you alone. Wolfie is in the midst of getting a book put together. He's writing a book. I literally
just got off the phone dictating the beginning to the guy right before we did this. I was on the phone with the writer and the producer or publisher guy, and so I was going to throw that in there. I was like, okay, I've got some stories that I'm not putting in that book. I can tell you now, but there's a lot that I will.
Is there any advice you would give him while he's in the midst of writing this book?
Read the thing before it comes out.
Oh, definitely.
By the way, I made the mistake of actually not reading it. I didn't put a lot of stuff in there that I could because I didn't want to hurt anybody.
Sure. Right.
I mean, some of it's in the book. It's not really hurting somebody, but it's not pro certain people.
Right. Yeah.
But it's interesting because it took me a year to write. 4 or 5 times people had actually asked me if I wanted to write a book, and I'm like, no. And then COVID hit, and I had absolutely nothing to do. So it was either become an alcoholic or write the book. Who's writing your book?
It's a guy named Chris. I forget his last name. We really just started talking. This has been pretty quick. I signed the deal for it and all that. I forget the whole name of the company and all this shit. I didn't care. I was just like, somebody wants to write it, let's write it. There's no money out of my pocket, and I don't have to actually write it. All I got to do is speak it. So that works out for me very well.
Well, that guy named Benny that wrote mine was actually really good. Benny, that was my ghostwriter. He was great.
Yeah.
I'll actually, I was thinking too, though, on some of the stories is like maybe just change some of the names, like, fake names to protect the innocent.
Yeah, that might be a good idea. Hey, when you were in Mexico, did you ever wrestle in Tepito?
Shit, man, I can't. I wrestled in Mexico City, I know, but I don't remember the name of I know one of them was a bull arena. I can't remember a lot of names. It's been so long ago. But
you got to remember Tepito because it's dangerous. It's like really, really, really in a bad area.
It all seemed bad to me, man. We went down to, we took the bus, to some of the towns, and you're going down towards South America, man. And then you're literally seeing, dirt houses, the pueblos or whatever they're called. And it's just like, people got goats strung up in their windows and shit. And I'm like, what the fuck? This is some third world shit right here, man. But the place where we stayed wasn't so bad because it was in the middle of Mexico City in a high-rise hotel. I mean, it was all right, but we worked, like I said. Do you know what I'm talking about when I say UCW and Minez? Minez was the promoter for UCW when it was going in the toilet. Like I said, this was 94.
Yeah, I know. The only reason, I do because of the promoter. I don't know if you did. When did you quit wrestling?
I really had my actual last match was on Flair's pay-per-view. I was in the Battle Royal, but before that, I was getting very sporadic there at the end. And my last good TV run was with TNA in 2004.
Yeah.
Did you ever hear of a guy named PJ Lloyd that wrestled for McMahon? He's South African.
I don't think so.
Just recent. No. Yeah.
I don't think so.
Let me see.
And when you're talking about, did you know that Minez, somebody was telling me the story because I had not been there. I didn't go back. I went one time and that was it. But I guess his kid got kidnapped and held for ransom and all this shit.
Where?
In Mexico.
Where did he? Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, can happen. That can happen.
Yeah. I can't remember who was telling me that, man. But at first, the story that I got was that he got kidnapped and shit. And then that was a few years before I got the actual story of they kidnapped his kid and held him for ransom. And I don't know what the finish to that was. And since then, I've heard he passed away anyway. So I don't know. It's weird.
PJ Black was Justin Gabriel from NXT. He was on WWE. Very talented South African wrestler. Unfortunately, is not wrestling on TV at this point, but is a great wrestler. So, yeah.
Well, his dad was the promoter in South Africa, actually.
Cool. Gotcha. Was it Paul Lloyd? Was that his name? His dad? Yeah.
Very good friend of mine. He was actually murdered, but in South Africa. But really good friend of mine.
Wow. Well, Lance, this has been awesome, dude. Thank you so much. Really
great conversation, man.
Guys.
Man.
Good luck.
You lived up to everything we've heard, so thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir.
Man. Take it easy.
All right. Come see us in Portland.
All right. We'll be right back with current affairs, and we're going to talk about last week's Monday Night Raw on Netflix.
DJ, hit the music.
It's a current affair. It's a current affair. Love it in color. It's a current affair. Love it in color.
All right, we're back with current affairs. Going to do Monday Night Raw on Netflix again. Thanks to Lance Von Erich for coming on for us. Great interview, man. That's 2 in a row that just had great backstories and after stories in the wrestling or post wrestling business and pre wrestling business, and very cool, man.
Yeah, 2 guys that kind of got put in a position that you would have some people would have fell apart in those positions. I mean, you were put as a Von Erich and as a Sting, with Jeff Farmer.
He might be my Reading Rainbow. What was the dude who's on Star Trek?
LeVar Burton.
Yeah, he might be my Lamar Burton because I might go buy the book and read it. So
hey man, tell me all about it. I'm going to buy it myself. So I love it. Yeah. So yeah, man, Raw on Netflix, bro. So here's the new thing. It's called Current Raw Affairs. No, I'm just kidding.
Current Raw Affairs. Well, I thought another good show, man. Now, the first one I said felt like a PLE. Now we're kind of getting back into the feel. It could be just me. I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying this in a bad way at all. Not a bad way. Great show. Yeah. But it's Monday Night Raw again, I think. To me.
Right.
And there's almost they're not doing the old 80s job guy matches, but they are putting matches out there like the Penta match. You knew brother wasn't going over.
Right.
He's just there to get Penta over. I feel like there's been some of those lately. I mean, I don't know that that's a bad thing, but and there's a lot of backstage jumping each other and this kind of thing, and pull aparts, and it does just seem a little more old school to me, and I dig it, man. There might be some people who don't, but I dig it, man.
No, I agree, man. I think you're right, bro. It is. It's definitely got an old school vibe for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what's her face? I can't remember. Was that at the very beginning where Rhea was walking in and got jumped by Nia Jax?
Yeah. Very beginning. Yeah. Early on.
So I was thinking, oh God, she's slamming her back first. I'm thinking she's gonna fuck her shoulder up again.
Yeah,
gonna be out.
Oh man,
is this a preemptive strike to do an injury again? I don't know. But so Jey Uso comes out yeeting.
Yeah,
and cuts his promo, and he's over. I'm not sure how much people think. Or maybe it's me again, but I feel like if he is going to be Gunther, I would be shocked, but I don't feel like he is. Right. And I think most people are thinking the same way as I am. So will they throw the curveball and put Jay over on Saturday night's main event, or will they go where we're thinking? But I do like I like the way Gunther carries himself, man. He's got this another old school thing about him, the suits and that, but also just his demeanor and the way he talks and stuff. I really dig that about him, man.
Yeah, I agree. He's definitely got an old school vibe about him. You think about those guys you could drop in at any era of wrestling. I could easily see him wrestling in the 50s and 60s. That would be no problem. The pure wrestling era of the 70s, he would have been incredible. The 80s, he would have been more of a Nazi German gimmick, but that would have been fine too. And in the 90s, of course. So really, he's a timeless wrestler. And you're right, man. I think Jay is just a good bump in the road for him. Tell me how does that feel? Like when he comes out there and they're yeeting for him like that. Back in your day, when you would come out in the Mid-South Coliseum or the Louisville Gardens and everybody was with y'all, how did that feel, man?
Oh, it's great, man. It's great. And, I think he's probably, like I said, I don't feel like they're going to put the world title on him, but I guarantee you he's moving some merch,
Oh,
so
definitely.
That's where their thinking is, man. I think probably he didn't steal my gimmick or nothing, but I feel like that's the position. The kids like him. He's a little bit of a hip hop gimmick, and that's where it's at for the younger generation. That type of gimmick is what works for them usually.
Yeah.
So I the only thing that I don't like, and it's a little bit of a knock on him, is I'm down with the pause for the yeet. I'm down with that, but just his facial expressions sometimes ain't matching the emotion that I'm thinking he's supposed to be getting. You know what I mean? I don't know. I
can see that. No, I can see. I think I see. One of the funny things I thought was funny when he broke out a really, like, it was like, when I saw you walking out here like a complete dork,
yeah, Gunther, yeah, like a complete dork. The people like you, I love his delivery on his stuff, man.
Yeah,
he's coming up with good stuff. So anyway, we'll see what happens there on Saturday. Yeah, so they have the little beat down, and then and that's another thing that makes me think again that he's not going over, because you would have left him laying, but you're going to leave him laying Saturday with the 1, 2, 3. So I think that's why he kind of got the better of Gunther on that exchange, and Gunther teases that he's going back in, but don't.
Right. Yeah. No, that makes sense. And I mean, it was good psychology, I thought, all the way around as far as that goes. Yeah.
So on to Rey Mysterio and Kofi. Man, I got a question here. And that little vignette with them putting the $2 in JBL's pocket was pretty good. I got a question. Is Kofi's chest always been like that?
Right. I know what you're saying. Yeah, man. It's kind of got that like atrophied, like Chris Jericho's chest
like
has
he tore
that
it, like he tore it or something, or I don't know if it's always been like that, because I gotta, y'all know I ain't followed it that much, but I don't know, man. It looked weird. I mean,
it's been that way for a long time, man. And I know Scott Steiner's chest did that. And I know Jericho's is doing that now. Jericho's abs stick out further than his pecs do. And, that's whatever. But I mean, my abs stick out further than my pecs too, but I'm not, Jericho in with no shirt on. But, Kofi,
as long as your pecker sticks out further than both of them, we're good.
Yeah, I don't have the Dunlop. We're good there.
But man, Rey Mysterio can go, man. Still,
dude. Yeah, I'm waiting to see him and Penta, man. That'll be cool. Yeah, but like on SmackDown, I don't know if you're an avid watcher of SmackDown, but I've been watching it since they were on Fox Network, and now I've been continuing while they moved to USA. And I saw last week that Kevin Owens came in the ring because, Ray was setting it up like, oh, I would like to have the title one more time. And then, Kevin Owens comes out and he's got his Winged Eagle World title. And he was like, well, if you win the Rumble, I'll be glad to challenge. You can challenge me for this, totally building it as a real title, like he's the real champion. And then he kind of does the same thing with Sammy too, in that great promo exchange they had. I don't want to skip ahead too far, but anyway.
Yeah. Sure. Something I noticed during that match, man, was there was a little bit of a mess up there, and I don't know. Did you notice it?
Yeah.
The power bomb.
Yeah, looked a little off. Yeah.
Yeah, but he wasn't supposed to power bomb him right there. That was I think they slipped. I really don't think that first power bomb on the floor right in front of the table was supposed to happen. I think. And because you'll notice, Ray goes down, boom, and then you can see Ray's talking to him while he's on his knees there, and he's fixing the spot, and then he throws him into the post, and then they go for it again, and then there's the flip and slings Kofi Hurricanrana into the steps. I think that was supposed to happen the first time, except it was supposed to go into the ring. But I don't know. I could be totally wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm right.
That makes sense. I can see that.
But it just shows how, because things like that can happen, man. And that's just Ray's veteran in him being able to cover that real quick and not going to the younger guys, not going straight back to it. Don't go straight back to it. They put enough in between there where, unless I feel like if you're as seasoned as I am, you're only going to notice it. But I don't think most people would notice that.
Yeah.
But anyway, that was just a little spot that I was like, oh, I didn't think that don't look like that was supposed to happen. And then I'm watching, I'm like, okay, he's telling him he's fixing to fix it. Yep, here we go. Yep, that was supposed to happen the first time.
Hey, and guys out there in podcast land, that's what makes it great that you have a 30-year wrestler as your host of your podcast. I highly recommend everybody get them one.
Oh, man. But yeah, a good match, man.
I mean, two seasoned pros, man,
Yeah. So. Ray has been going for years, man.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And still going at a high level, man. Seriously.
Yeah, I mean, he's the I don't know what the word I'm looking for. He's just like he's almost like a bionic man now. He's had a lot of surgeries, but he's still going, man. He's super talented.
Yep. Sami Zayn's promo, and then Kevin Owens comes out. I mean, just really to announce that he was going into the Royal Rumble, basically, and setting up somebody's turning their back on the other one. That's a setup for that.
Yeah, because and I think it's also somewhat extending Kevin Owens' delirium as a champion. You know what I mean? Because he did come out on SmackDown to talk to Ray. I know we're not covering SmackDown, and then he does basically the same promo with his old friend Sammy. Both from Quebec, been in the business, worked each other a billion times, kind of thing. So he's continuing the thing of saying, "Hey, man, I'm the champ. You can challenge me, and we'll headline WrestleMania together." Same thing he told to Ray. So
I didn't know that. So it makes even more sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's being a manipulator.
Right. Yeah. And, Sammy's saying that I don't need the world championship, but damn it, I want it, and I love that, man. Everybody should feel that way, especially if you're if you're anybody in a promotion, you should want that world title. I think that's just that underlying psychology that you should just always maintain. Everybody wants the big gold, man,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the next match is Bayley and Nia Jax, and I am sure I would love Nia Jax as a person, but as a wrestler, and if I were Bayley or anyone else working her, I would dread those matches, man. It's one of those where she's so big and so limited that it limits you.
Right.
It limits you on your move set because obviously most of these girls can't pick her up and do everything they want to do. And agility wise, it's hard for her to keep up with you. And this sounds like I'm just burying her, but I just, again, I don't really see it with her. She's kind of like the women's version of Andre the Giant, but Andre the Giant that was, at WrestleMania 3, broken down and shit, and she's not near that age.
Right.
Because Andre could move at her age and shit. Andre could fucking move.
Yeah.
Andre would take drop kicks backwards over the top rope for shoot. I've seen it. And Nia can't.
Right.
And so I don't know, man. I just always feel sorry for the person that's working with her, man.
How does that... Yeah, because you've been in the ring with Big Mabel and those big guys. How does that feel when somebody squashes you like that, man? Like sits on your sternum like that?
Oh, I never had nobody like that do that move to me, and I think it would suck. But, obviously been landed on by big guys. But Mabel, he was like a big pillow.
Right.
He'd land on you. It was like a big fluffy pillow. Except when he splashed you in the corner now. I don't know, for whatever reason that was different, but it felt like my spine went through my fucking back, through my chest even.
Oh my God.
But they had a good match decently. Go ahead, Jimmy. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Did you notice that Cole and Wade were both putting over, like saying that she's more of like a mental wrestler now? Like they were talking about how like it's almost like they're trying to bring a cerebral element out of her. And I just don't see it. I mean, I guess they're trying for anything, but I'm not sure that I see the cerebral approach.
I just always feel like she's a bit reckless, man, and not really meaning to be. And then like, okay, so the spot where she took the like power bomb off she looks up at Bayley, then gets down in a 3-point stance, ducks her head. Like, okay, come run in and do the move now. I mean, that was terrible. And then when Bayley's supposed to move out of the way of the whatever they call that, the backsplash gimmick, where they land their back on them. I forget what they call that now. But and she landed on her. That could have been Bayley's fault because she should have really rolled in instead of out. But whatever. I mean, it was just a Nia Jax match to me, man.
Right.
And then Rhea comes out, and good little pull apart there. It's kind of like they did spots in the pull aparts, not just a regular pull apart, but they had actual like spots for the pull apart,
like planned out and stuff.
Yeah. Then I'll get on the table and so that's kind of good. I like the idea of that, not just doing a regular pull apart. Although a shoot, when you do a pull apart, we used to do them like it was a shoot. We just be trying and let me go. Here we go.
Yeah.
I like the idea of kind of planning a few things out there to kind of give it some more life.
Yeah, and Nia Jax will be a different opponent for Rhea too. We never really get to see her kind of come as the underdog almost. You know what I mean? The littler person. So it'll be cool to see that. So. And
now she could probably. I mean, I've seen her. She can lift her a little bit, but it's still not. It's just going to limit her, man. Because I'm sorry. That's just how I feel about it.
Well, I get it, man.
I'm not looking forward to seeing that, man.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
So on to Penta and Pete Dunne.
And when you get into this, let me say something real quick. First of all, last week we had a special guest co-host with your stepson there, Isaiah Childress. And the cool thing is on our YouTube channel, people were putting Isaiah over. So Isaiah, they like you, man. So
yeah, I showed him that. He was honored.
That's cool.
So obviously going into this one, we know what this is. This is just this is putting Penta over, get Penta over. Good little match. I'm trying to think. I watched it yesterday. Oh, and let me give everybody, in case you hadn't figured this out yet, if you wait till Tuesday to watch it, you don't have to watch all the commercials. They don't play them. They do play the WWE's commercials, but they don't play the other ones. So
yeah, I know. That was the best news in the world.
No, so there's a little tidbit in case you guys haven't figured that out.
Yeah, that was great news, man. I love that. So I'm glad you found that hack out.
Life hack.
Yeah, life hack. Yeah.
But yeah, another good match, man, from Penta. Obviously he's over. And, there's rumors. I guess what they're going to do, I guess Ray Phoenix is coming. And then there's another one that's coming, too, that I saw. I can't remember the name. Brother of something, El Hijo something. Okay. But it looks like there's another one coming. So are we going to have
El Hijo del Vikingo? Is that it?
Nah, I don't think it's Viking. Okay. But are we going to have like a lucha, division, or are we going to have a stable? I'm wondering.
I mean, you never know. They've always, I feel like that's one thing they've always wanted to have is a strong, South American, Hispanic, Latino, that demographic, as I'm trying to say here. But, I don't know. It could be a cool faction. I think it would just open it up to a good division. And I hope that's how they do it, Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
All right. Moving along to CM Punk's promo. He's a good talker, man. You got to give him that. And, the Hulk Hogan reference.
Dusty old ass or whatever.
Yeah. But I think people are thinking they're going to put Hogan in the battle royal. I'd be fucking shocked, man. And not because of the booze that he got, but because of the fact that he could barely walk through the fucking tunnel, man. I just can't see him getting in the ring.
No. And then having to go out, like how would you do that?
To be able to take a bump out.
What's funny is I recently just watched your match, the one you talked about with Lance there, the Ric Flair's the Bunkhouse Battle Royal, and I was like, okay, I can't remember how Wolfie went out. How did he go out? And you went out good and safe, but I can't see Hogan being able to do that safely.
And I was hurting too. My neck
I bet.
And I don't mean from the bump. My neck was actually killing me. It was before I got the first injection in it even, and it was killing me, man. And then after, and a lot of it was from standing around all day, but my neck was killing me, and I was just thinking, how can I get out of here? And Janela, that was his idea to snatch it out of my hand and throw it on the ground, and me charge after him and him duck and yada yada. Yeah. But so I really took my own bump and just took care of myself. But my neck was hurting me. But yeah, so Hulk Hogan, I don't think he's going to be in the battle royal, even though somebody else I saw mentioned his name. I don't know. Did you see that? Yes. I'm not talking about on Raw, but somewhere on social media I saw that somebody else mentioned his name trying to either get themselves over or something. I don't know.
I don't think I did, but yeah.
Yeah, somebody.
Okay.
But anyway, the promo.
Solid. I mean, I like the area they did it in up in the stands there, too. I thought that was cool. Gave it a little different element, Okay,
so the next match, Damage Control versus Pure Fusion Collective. Can't say that I really
not since East Nashville have I seen as many lesbians in a match, but yeah, so
come to Somerset. That's awful. I can't, man. And I don't know if the crowd was tired at that point, but the heels didn't have no heat. Does Shayna Baszler.
Yeah.
Does she shave her eyebrows?
I think so, man. Or maybe she. Yeah, I think so.
There's something going on there, and I'm like, what the? But if it's intentional, okay. If it's not, I'm sorry for your disability.
Right, alopecia or whatever.
Yeah, it could be. Could be. I'm not trying to make fun of
Josh Dobbs.
A solid question, man.
Yeah.
Solid question. But, man, I mean, it was good. Now, that fucking springboard drop kick looked like it killed Dakota Kai. Did you see that?
Yes,
Holy
I did.
Shit.
Yeah.
I was and she even did the weird little hand thing when you get knocked out for like a quick second. I thought, oh fuck! I was wanting to show that back in like really, really slow motion so I could look at it, but I was expecting blood. I really was.
I'll say this: that was as impressive of a springboard drop kick as almost I've ever seen. Honestly, that was a beautiful drop.
Well,
kick.
in a way, though. It was almost messed up because the timing, she should have went up in the air a little higher instead of like a fucking dart, man. The 70s lawn dart, for that matter.
Right.
There needed to be a little bit more elevation so she didn't kill the bitch, but she ended up hitting her hard, man. But yeah, I just couldn't get in this match. Now, the comeback, the hot tag and the comeback was actually pretty good. I remember that part of it. It was some unique little just spots there. I'll say that.
Yeah.
So the beginning of the match, I think it got better as it went along. But not a shit match, but not great.
Yeah. I mean, they're saying Io Sky might be the one to win the women's rumble. We're not sure, but you know, that's an early prediction. So maybe look out for that in the future. Maybe that's what we'll do for the current affairs in that one. Just do a Royal Rumble prediction episode or something. I don't know. But anyway, I would like to. I love the Royal Rumble match, but you know, I don't know who's going to win it. But go ahead.
Yeah. Just like I said, man, that one started out bad, but it progressed. It got better, and it finished good. So not bad. And then on to the main event, which I thought was fucking killer.
Yeah, great match.
Absolutely great match, man. Those two, man. Seth Rollins is really good.
Yeah, he's probably pound for pound, he might be the best they got, to be honest.
Yeah. And I'm not taking nothing away from Drew because I think he's really good too. But Seth is damn good. And he has some nice trunks or tights on too.
Yeah,
Seth's tights were badass. His
looks like he could be Al Perez's kid too, in a way. So
I've seen that on social media a lot.
yeah. But yeah, I mean, two great. I mean, the match you expected from these two veterans, like they are. You know, I mean, I personally felt like it was as strong a match as they could have had. I felt like it was probably even almost like a pay-per-view level quality match. You know, the ending was cool. Kind of brought Sammy back into the situation there. But dude, I mean, Rollins. They need to, I don't know what they're going to do with the whole deal with it, but I feel like they need to try to somewhat cement Rollins. He might be their Shawn Michaels now, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
He's good, man.
And I love Drew, too. We love Drew, you know?
Yeah. I just remember thinking while I was watching, I was like, man, this dude's good, man. He knows when to do it, and why to do it, and how to do it.
Yeah. And dude, I mean, anytime you get a big dude like Drew in there and you can work with him like Seth did, like I said, I thought it was a great match. It's one of the better matches I've seen actually this year so far. So
and he also, Seth looks to be, I guess he was having knee problems or something. Am I right on that?
Right. Yeah. Now he's healthy with that.
Yeah. He looks solid now. Like nothing's bothering him. He's doing some stuff I didn't expect to see from him, you know?
Right.
That I hadn't seen because I hadn't been keeping up with him. So I'm kind of getting edumacated. You know what I mean?
Edgema. Yep, exactly. Yeah, but I mean, I thought it was a great match. I'm happy with the way it ended, and it should have ended that way, and that's good. So
yeah. Good show, man. Good show. Like I said, not PLE caliber, but that's not what it's supposed to be. It was just like that the first time because it was the first time.
Right. Well, what would you grade the whole show as a whole?
Solid B.
Yeah. I'm with you.
And I'd probably give it higher if, like I said, I really didn't care for the tag team women's match that much. Like I said, it got better. It wasn't garbage. But that, and then, I don't know. I mean, if I was a kid, I'd love Penta, the way he looks and everything, and he wrestles good. But that match was just a get-over match. So, you know. And then, of course, I'm not into Nia Jax's matches. So I don't know. Kofi and them was good, and yeah. So I mean, yeah, a B.
Yeah,
a B.
I like it. A B,
going with a B. You going with a B?
I think a B is the right way. Like I said, I thought there was great parts and bad parts of all of it, but I felt like none of the bad parts were that bad. It was all just kind of like, well, can't all be home runs. They can be doubles and triples, but other than that, I enjoyed it. I think a B is a solid. I'm with you there. Let's give it a B, and we'll see how it ends up.
Yeah, it's just, and when I review these, I want the listeners to know this. It's hard for me to get into it the way that a wrestling fan does, because I've been in the business and I've been there for so many shows and sat through so many shows and waiting on your turn. And so there's points, especially like the talking segments. I'm like, come on, let's get to the next match, And I know some fans do that too, but it's got to set the storyline. And if you're invested in the storyline, then that has to happen. And so everything has its purpose, but when I knock things, it's not because I think I'm better than the people that I'm talking about. I just have watched a lot.
Right. Yeah. I think the folks get that. I think they get it.
And I'm looking at it from a different perspective, and that's just the way it is. Some things will never change.
Well, one thing that is also never going to change is the importance of mental wealth, Wolfie D. So keep in mind, for the first time right now with Magic Mind, we've got the 24-hour pack, Focus and Sleep Shots, bundled up for the first time at 45% off, exclusive at our link, magicmind.com/live in code JAN. That's LIVEINCOJAN. Let us know how it goes for you all. And again, that is the Live and in Color with Wolfie D 2025 January Mental Health Challenge. There's no better time to start than now. Make this year the year you build your mental resilience. Improve your both sleep and awake clarity with Magic Mind. magicmind.com/live in code JAN. Thanks.
Well, I'm not even going to try to top that segue because you jumped on it and rode it into the night, brother. I threw that thing up, unintentionally threw it up like a softball, and you knocked it out of the park.
Thanks.
So all I'm going to say is that next week, folks, unless something changes, next week's show is going to be cool. Actually, it's going to be cold. It's going to be cold. You think snowing on the beaches right now is something? Well, tune into next week's show because it's going to get a little colder.
Bring a jacket.
Yeah, and a hoodie and a beanie.
And all that. And gloves.
Yes. And snow boots.
And some salt to put on the driveway and stuff. Yeah.
Tune in next week, folks.
Still live and in color on the Wolfie D. We got a cap for your dome.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling, the podcast that's based on the old school but can still help you find the good stuff from today. Jimmy Street and the Plastic Chic, Jared, are the undisputed tag team champions of the wrestling podcast world. From thought-provoking topics to superstar interviews to action figure expertise. This team does it all, and all they ask is, give me back my pro wrestling! Every other Thursday, wherever you listen to podcasts.
Hey everybody, Gene Jackson here, inviting you to check out the Retro Wrestling Review, where each week I'm joined by some great co-hosts who help me review classic episodes of USWA Championship Wrestling, and right now we are doing week-by-week reviews of 1993. But we don't just do reviews, sometimes we get a chance to interview some of the people who were there and lived it, plus do watch-alongs. It's a lot of fun, so check out new episodes that drop every Wednesday at WrestleCopia.com, and to find links to everything associated to the podcast, you can go to uswapodcast.com.
That's right, it's the talk of Middle Tennessee, the channel you love to hate and the channel you hate to love. It's Brian Turner from Brian Turner's VHS Rehab. And if you're looking for matches from Wolfie D to Jerry Lawler to Dusty Rhodes and the team that put a pimp before your eyes and a goatee between your thighs, Booty Call and Athena, go to lostwrestling.com. See, I made it easy for you. Brian Turner's VHS Rehab. Booyah.
Hi, this is Mike Needham, host of the Reckless Abandon Podcast with Mike Needham. We invite you to jump on your favorite podcast platform and search for the Reckless Abandon Podcast and give us a listen. I'm sometimes joined by a part-time podcaster, part-time co-host, and full-time wife, Tiffany Nicole. We talk wrestling, we talk pop culture, we talk local events, local happenings in West Tennessee, and a ton of other stuff. But be sure to check out the Reckless Abandon Podcast. Find us on Facebook. Also, look up the Microgroup Podcasting family on Facebook and see some of our other podcasts we have out there. Until next time, make good choices and always remember, no dollar, no dice.
So that was another great episode. Hey, Wolfie, tell them where they can find you on social media.
Jimmy, they can find me in the club, bottle full of bub. I'm just kidding. They can find me on Facebook. My personal page is Warren Wolf, WOLFE. I'm on Instagram at WarrenWolf13.
You can always find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at Live Wolfie D. Here's the thing. Wolfie always has offers for his autographed photos. He has a selection of some awesome photos from throughout his career that he will autograph and personalize any way that you want him to. Just contact him either directly at his personal Facebook page or through any one of our other pages, and we'll make sure you get in contact directly with Wolfie. Get those photos, right, Wolfie?
Yeah, I've got some good stuff on there, to help with the podcast.
Folks, if you can't get out to a show to meet Wolfie D, there's nothing like that, especially for the fans of PG-13 and Wolfie D. And before we go, you can always find me, your host, Jimmy Street, at James Rock Street on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube.
And hey, Jimmy, before we go real quick, I just want to add in there, from the bottom of my heart, I really appreciate, first of all, the work you've done for this podcast. You have worked your butt off. Secondly, the people that are liking the page. Beyond that, even more, is the people that are listening, and we really appreciate that.
Yeah, and remember, guys, the podcast drops a new episode every Monday at noon, and our past episodes are streaming now on demand on all major podcast formats. Thanks again.
Yeah. PG-13 Memphis Wrestling Hall of Fame class of 2024. Give it up. Spaceman Jones with the beat. Here we go. The 90s was ours, and we did it with pride. 50-time tag champs, what a hell of a ride. Rock and roll couldn't beat us. No Tommy and Doug. Knox Mother's dirty white boy who called themselves thugs. T is for terrible. H is for hell. Ha! PG both been locked up in county jail. The kid was real, and we were immature punks. Buddy Wayne couldn't stand us because we didn't wear trunks. We did it our way. In and out of the ring, bought a real rap swagger to the Memphis thing. You can hate it, you can love it, we just did our thing. Still true to the game, now we Hall of Fame. PG-13, put respect on our name. Yeah.
This has been a James Rock Street production.